Our final game of the day is upon us. That is WYLDE taking on Wolves. And if we're talking about these two teams, neither of them, of course, want to win or lose this one, because they're both somewhat at the lower part of this group stage as it currently stands. They all want to take as many points away from this as possible. But when we're talking about Wolves, I want to know what the general sentiment is about this team right now, because the first few times we were quite hard on them.
I'm quite worried about Wolves. I think that they look very uncoordinated and very, very heavily reliant on individual performance, especially from Deadshot and from Mowgli. They need an entire team to step up on the individual basis. But first of all, I need to see them starting to play the basics and start playing the team game that they are known to have done before.
And that team game is what I want to see from them as well. But I want to see them find their identity. I think they're in a real crisis at the minute. That Mowgli is an exceptionally aggressive player. Deadshot is also trying to be an exceptionally aggressive player. And the other three, Bibu, P4 and Shinka, are incredibly passive by nature. And what that creates is this fragmented kind of idea. When they're attacking or defending, it leaves them with quite big holes because 2 people are being aggressive and 3 people are being passive.
Now, for their opponents, we've seen WYLDE have a pretty struggling start to the stage. However, last week, we saw them get a pretty decent start against Secret, but they weren't able to close it out. What's happening?
Yeah, so they're struggling. You know, there's no way about it, no way to talk about it, apart from they are bottom of the league and are struggling. And I've got a quick stat that I want to give to you, actually, Fabian, which is WYLDE are only trading out 4% of their deaths. That means 1 in every 20 deaths is getting a refrag. That is a statistic that you want to be improving. Play together, play closer, and then you might be able to keep that man advantage and keep going with it.
For that stat, I have another fun one, but I'm going to mention something else first. When I work with G2, our goal for practice and bootcamp for trade kills was at 20% to 25%, which means we're looking at, well, 5 times as high trade percentage is what they're getting. That's very low. Another fun stat is that Tab looks like a great player right now. He's having high EPS, but most of those kills actually comes in, well, not most of them, but a big chunk comes in 1 versus X's, which they have lost every single one except for 1. He would just be a +1 in plus minus if it wasn't for exit kills. So the entire team needs to really, really step up individually, team play, and just everything. There's nothing that they cannot get better at right now.
We're looking at a lot of number improvement from all of these players in these 2 rosters. The map that is selected for our best of 1 is Clubhouse, a pretty default map. Would that suit this best of 1 well then?
I think in a way it kind of, it speaks to where both teams are at, right? I think we're looking for Wolves to have improvement in team play and going at the same time, same pace, same aggression. And for WYLDE, I think it's good to try and just get back to basics on the Clubhouse map. I think it's a map that both of them would have wanted to go to because it's where they can get, I think, the easiest improvements in performance, even if they don't win the game.
This is a scary map for Wolves because they've had very, very clear-cut rushes on this map that we've seen a ton of from them before. If they haven't changed up this map and WYLDE are getting back on track with their basics, I see WYLDE being able to clinch this one out just because of the map and the side start for defense for WYLDE, which obviously we all know Wolves have been struggling with their attacks.
Now our game is ready, so we should bring our casters in because I don't even need ask them any questions. We should be able to bring back Hap and Fluke for one more time. Today, unfortunately, I don't get to ask them anything. You guys don't get to ask them anything either because you should be able to send us right into the game. Our final game of the day on Clubhouse with Hap and Fluke.
Thank you very much, Anne. And yes, no questions for us because we don't know what we're talking about.
Depends on what we're talking about. You know, if the questions are about any like difficult topics, then I might skip out. But Siege,
we know a lot about.
Siege, we can definitely talk.
If there were questions about Siege, we could have probably answered them, man. Why don't you believe in us anymore? Why has Fresh and Fabian made you so jaded towards the beauty of the world? Actually,
you could. Yeah.
I was going to say you spent enough time with them.
With who? Fabian Fresh and Fabian?
Yeah, Fabian Fresh and Fabian.
Sorry. 2
Fabians, 1 Fresh.
I mean,
3 times
3
the
World
fun.
Championships. He has the ego for it, right? He can pick 2 Fabians.
If anybody would be cloned, I think he would be one of the most terrifying people to clone.
He'd take over the world.
Of the Siege talent, if there was like a list of people I probably wouldn't risk cloning, he's up there. I think the world could do with 2 Tims.
Yeah, I could see that work.
Second Tim.
What second Tim specialize in?
Probably the same things regular Tim specializes in. Yeah, I would. We could have 2 Anns, and then we have 1 full-size Ann.
Yeah, if we stack them on top of one another, right?
We have.
Yeah.
2 Miloshes.
That'd be funny.
That would be.
You could put them in a room together, and you would have like a great podcast about
They would
whatever
just talk about anything
would happen
for a million
anywhere.
hours. And then I was gonna be a bit mean. I know of our friends and of the talent who's like co-streaming and stuff like that, and I know Parker and Lynx, I believe, are co-streaming. And I was gonna make a joke how we could do that inexpensive those. That's just me saying remove Lynx. No, I'm not that mean. However,
I said the volume gets 4 times as loud if you clone Lynx.
yeah, I mean, 2 Lynxes, I think you would be able to find infinite energy via noise. Hey, we're in Wolves versus Wild, and we are on Clubhouse. Neither of the runs, I think, of these 2 teams have gone the way they expected. Both have been, let's be honest, pretty shaken from their first few games.
Yeah, they definitely haven't been finding the groove that these 2 teams want to be in. Of course, Wolves themselves have definitely managed to find 2 victories, which is at least something. You know, 8-7 against Virtus Pro and a 7-3 against Fnatic, which was the more standout performance.
5 seconds
But
left.
Wild, on the other hand, they have not been able to find anything as of yet. And they, of course, went for like the complete redesign of their roster in the off-season, getting the full-out applications out and complete trials.
I mean, it was like
which
X
some of the
Factor,
players-
wasn't it?
What do you say?
Like everyone
Yeah,
was
it's
sent
X
in. It
Factor,
was
indeed, yeah.
get yourself solid.
Who got to press the button?
Oh, Tev. They almost, sorry to interrupt, they almost had the strike there. They hoped the drone would roll past them. If they'd have tucked the corner, so they might have been able to. But there's an example of why you don't always roam strip. Because if you're roaming strip and they find you, they have to watch one window to cut off any escape route.
Yeah, it is difficult to leave as soon as you're spotted there, and it's just a suicide position at that point, right? Like you just got to play until you die, or you manage to kill everybody that was trying to challenge you. And it's a great opening for the side of Wolves, a nice and free one. Just costed them a single drone. Not that they have too many left of those, 4 of them. As well, still in a bit of a rotating game and trying to find some extra drones that have been placed. It is just nice and steady clearing going on from Wolves. Clearing out that top floor first. They do need to hurry, because there's still quite a bit of progress that needs to be made, and getting your drone stuck is not helping.
At this point, how much time can be sort of stressed and pressed here? By Wild. They've obviously lost Teb, and he's generally been that player popping up in the best possible times for them. The roster itself has had some impactful moments. Kanto, though, a bit quieter before. Could have a big day now as Lolo gets caught out on the rotate. Adam is secured. Now holding on to Blue. Look at the surround of the Wolves players over the back end, over the other hatches. Kanto might try and hit Oil. He kind of wants one more engagement before he goes, but they're not offering it to him yet.
Let's get droned out now, though, and that means the pressure is going to be coming on. You see it both from the wall, from the steps, and from above. A cleanup coming out from Wolves. Quite clinical out there. Just keep him busy long enough. Make sure you cannot actually drop down into Oil. And now you have 45 seconds to get an execute on. There's not that much that they have opened up, though. And there is still electrification onto the walls, which will make things even more difficult. As you can see, both Stock and Moto being locked off. So Kitchen is the only real hatch they've been able to open up, and some more verticalities coming through. But Nello in a crucial position, but also the last man alive. He now has the hold of the hordes.
I mean, brilliant execute here from Wolves. They've really not put a single step wrong. Everything was weighed up, clinical, cool. They were never really stressed throughout any of the approach there. Sure, Kanto was able to get one sort of sneaky fight back, but look how well and cautiously Wolves dedicated themselves throughout the rest of the round. They never handed over a fight or an instigation without it being one they were fully intent and sort of well-versed on.
And usually this bottom floor side is one of the most difficult ones to take on the attack. However, they managed to basically clinically pick them apart out there. And then, you know, even though the hatches were still closed, didn't really matter in the end. Good util use, information use, all of that in the end. So Wolves, very clinical first round. Now they just need to keep that up. And again, you know, neither of them had the best of runs. Maybe Wild had a worse run than Wolves so far, as Wolves still find themselves into the top 6 position currently, which is, of course, all that matters down in the end, because that's the first shots you'll have at making it to the major. I would assume that the organization of Wolves will put a bit of extra pressure down onto the Manchester major. Not because the players are from there, but more so because it's a home country for the organization itself.
Wolves, let's see where they go from the second start. We've seen, to be fair, a lot of today, although there has been surprise results, the games have generally started with a bit of back and forth, and nobody's been entirely clean, and this might be another part of that. Packball, I was signing him earlier as the other name that sort of popped up a lot as soon as ground would be taken away from Wild. It was usually him or Teb that sort of put a foot down and stopped things getting too far apart. At this point, with Mowgli gone, the lead in, there is still the extension down to the bottom of the garage. It looks open, but they've got the opener inside lounge. The Kanto can kind of hold off and give Teb some support.
Extra. Actually, the Shadow playing into the game there. That's where the impacts are coming out. You see the Shadows, which of course come down. Angle comes through. Kanto with a huge swing, gets one. Will he get the second as well? He's getting tagged down bit by bit, but the injures come through, and suddenly only P4 is left standing.
I mean, what a round of 2 fates. What a round of 2 rounds. This has been entirely different setups. A flawless response from Wild. The perfect, all the compliments I paid Wolves in the opening round, where they seemed to know everything. Everything was well balanced, cautious. There, Kanto retaking the bottom of garage with the big open breach and a player on the door itself. What can you say?
This is like the duality of this game that we're going to be seeing. First, a super clinical round from Wolves, and now and just the flank from Kanto sows a whole lot of chaos to come through. He's able to win both those fights, but in the meantime, like 2 other people get killed elsewhere, and P4 is rotating around. It's a near flawless into a flawless, but both on opposite sides.
What did you think about the patch notes that came out today?
Totally realistic patch notes.
Yeah, the 100% realistic patch notes that was posted by the Rainbow Six account, including 1.5 is back. Weird that we're not seeing anyone use it.
I believe the Iana pose, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, the Iana pose, the original Iana pose, guys. It's back, everybody. But no one's...
I hope we get to see a Iana MVP.
Ash's force speed and no cameras. If you don't believe me, everybody, if you don't believe me, just go check the Rainbow Six Twitter account. Go check the Esports Twitter account.
It's already deployed, right? There was no downtime needed. It was just an instant flip the switch. They were ready for it.
Enough about that. Let's see who's able to get the lead-in kill, because apparently it's one way or the other at this point. Bibu's a bit concerned that they're not quite ready to get this without it being battened across, and it's a little bit of a long rotate out. Can get caught from someone if they're feeling a bit spicy, which is why they had to do the work inside. But I do like that, how it breaks a portion of the hard wall there as well.
The opener. Sometimes we see a castle to stop this from the bandit trick from being pulled off, but now what we see is a Nizami keep the barrier. It's going to be also played by the Nizami itself, just to give some challenge, because in the meantime the opening is happening on the opposite side from the CCTV area. Lots of drones in places, making sure there's no flanks. And Wolves, no exothermics left. There is some Selmas in the pockets of P4, which they could use to open up the jacuzzi wall, but again, they will be bandit tricking. Packball is in a position to do so thanks to those Kiba barriers.
I mean, it just gives you so much life. Kiba, it's that strange sort of position that they're in where the nerf was great, the change was great, but it's still so impactful. The Kiba barricades, they're in a very, very strong position now, and they can at least be taken out from a bit of range. Before, you wouldn't have been able to do anything about those without getting in and hitting them. Using some explosive here, This gives you this lead in. They've been able to get themselves control. There was no real extension over towards the CC side itself, with Kanto playing under the hatch, hoping someone goes on a bit of an adventure into logistics, but there's also this to rotate as well, and they seem to wear, but Deadshot caught. Pressure from Logi hatch as well. Kanto's on a sliver of health. He still has 2 impacts. The Solace that can play a bit later. Half the damage done. Mowgli's getting the drop down. He's waiting for someone else to hit the hatch. Got to be aware of the vertical. It's from underneath. There's a down on the player. He's not quite able to secure. He's caught out as he rotated his way back up.
At that point, right, they knew there was only one person left. It was Kenta down below, so you can go for it. And whatever is safe, you know that like logistics area, that is going to be challenged. You don't want to go there. But the rest of the execute could come through. As soon as he gave his position away, they knew there was only one less on side they needed to deal with. We're going to a quick tech break to get something fixed into a tactical timeout from WYLDE, I believe. I think the tech was requested, but maybe they've also requested the tactical right after. But I'm just gonna say, it's not that so much is going wrong that I would say that this tactical timeout is warranted right now.
It's early. It was setting themselves up for an interesting pace moving forward, but I don't see P4 talking much, so yeah, I think
I still assume it's a tech.
Yeah. I think like we can cut away from BB. We don't have to see him cleaning his nose. Production, don't be cruel. We gotta look out for players. If you're a player, or if you're on camera and production cuts to you blowing your nose, it's cruel. There's a cruel sense of humor.
That we call that in 4K.
Silence across the boards right now.
Yeah.
We find us.
It's the rule.
It's still, you know, although there was some moments where they could have done some damage up from underneath, at that point, Wolves had full control of the site. The Solace is only sort of playing time and their own exit frags in that engagement. It's really been all or nothing for both teams so far.
Kind of, you know, you want this to be a bit closer, but on the other hand, if you win, you want to be winning as convincingly as possible. Like, you know, round 1 and 2 that we've had. Round 3 was a bit closer with a couple of downs, but eventually the kill to come through. Again, it's like it is going to be a back and forth, and while they didn't have their best starts, Wolves had a okay start. I think there's some teams that would be willing to trade for those points. Of course, not where they want to be. They want to be in the top 4 guaranteed, right? Like, they've been able to make it to every major NSI for, what was it, like the past 2 years, something like that? So they want to make sure that they're back into that. And now they're slightly lacking, just behind on a couple of points that they will have to make up for in the coming days, as they just got themselves knocked down to 7th place, so just outside of playoffs.
The crazy thing is, if you look at, you know, there's obviously still a handful of play days. Not everyone plays left, but if you're playing on every single day like WYLDE are, you have the possibility of 12 extra points after the play day. We're just on the turn of the half. However, the difference, if WYLDE to take the full 3 points from today's showdown, let's say, they find themselves on 4 points, then it's 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 8, 9, 12 across the top.
Yeah.
And that for halfway through, for how dominant BDS were looking, and, you know, we talk about how great Secret's run was, to how we've said WYLDE have been suffering and ENCE were suffering. It's insane that this day has entirely flipped and almost reset the board of a difference of a game and a half between top and bottom.
We said it after play day 1 or 2, right? Like, everybody can take it here in EU. Like, it's not as clear cut as people might make it out to be. And of course, BDS, they were having an incredible game, but even we've seen today that they can bleed, they can lose games, and they did. ENCE beat them. The team that, according to many, was like maybe the 8th or 9th team in the league, based on how they started off their stage and the pre-stage, more importantly. They find themselves in the middle of the fight right now because of that victory.
We'll hopefully be back in soon. Obviously, the last game of the night is the classic one where we get to have a little bit more tension built. It truly has been a night of surprising results. I don't think anyone expected the games to go generically the way they've gone. Whether you expected the winner or not, everything has been a battle.
The way we want it.
It's a nice.
We want these teams to be ready, right? We don't want to just, 7-0, 7-0, 7-0, 7-1, 7-1. We want them to go back and forth. We want them to battle for it because that builds good teams. That builds these teams that will be ready for the international stage. If you just win everything, then the loss is going to be coming home like even harder, right? So it's like sometimes you just got to lose a game. Part of life.
Do your best. I like that motivational poster. It's like in the gym, you know.
Oh, I thought I was looking at one of the player games. It's like, where is it?
No. I just like the idea. So like, you go down here into Arsenal. You assume there's weapons in those cases. You have this cool building. You know, the graffiti, the motorcycles, the alcohol, the money. Do your best. Please do your best.
Trying hardest. That's all we can ask.
Yeah, it's like.
I've only just seen his mute's face and all the money. Did you see that one?
I'm waiting for it to come back around now. I love the little details. If you look in, one of my favorite things is if you look at the boxes of cereal that they have.
Yeah.
Wait.
Next shot.
Next shot. Oh yeah. Is the boxes of cereals that they have on labs. One of them is just called Brick, and it's just pictures of bricks. And I'm like, okay. And whatever they
Where was
eat,
that? Was it
whatever
on
they
Labs or
eat,
on Lair?
on Nighthaven Labs in the kitchen.
Huh. Maybe this is how Cali gets so like tough, you know?
Maybe
just eats brick.
It's just whatever they have in Montreal. It's what French Canadians eat. Bricks, apparently.
All the calendars have circled the same day.
April.
I'm still waiting to see what happens on that day.
I'm sure there's some titanium Rolo conspiracy theory about it. About finding all the Easter eggs on all the maps.
I think that calendar has been the same since like day one. It's like
it's a call out on some place, isn't it? It's
calendar.
No, it's April, isn't it? It's circled. I remember some teams used to use that.
It's April 13th, I think. That's circled.
And where it is, some teams will occasionally have that call out as April. I can't remember the teams. I remember talking about it at some point with people. You know how it goes. Teams have weird call outs for places. But because it was so consistent on positions and maps, they could go, oh, this is April.
You have like a call named Pikachu at some point. It just didn't make sense at all. It's just really, we need to find a name for this. Apple.
Apple.
Okay, what about this? Pikachu. It's like it didn't make sense at all. It's like sometimes you just gotta find something that's so memorable, especially if it's like a highly contested spot.
Well, the thing is, we have spots like on this map, for example, we have Adam, which if you don't know why it's called Adam, there was a position where a player called Adam. Before the rework of the map, when you could sort of tuck in and hide underneath and get more of a surprise strike at the top of that area, before it was a stair set that was so easily to sort of go up and down. Kid wasn't droned, came out, won the round in great style. The position is now known as Adam. The map was reworked. That area was entirely changed, and it's still Adam. That's like where that call comes from. I know that some people coming over from like things like other titles call it like Secret, or they'll say things like that, but it's Adam.
I try to avoid like player calls a bit too, like especially in ranked, because If the people aren't like watching competitive, it just doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, but also they, you know, competitive's the truest version of Siege. They should.
Of course.
You hearing me? Rainbow Six Reddit. Comp is real Siege. You should match what we do. We'll hopefully be back in the game soon. Yeah, there was a striker spot. We'll hopefully be back in the game soon. Obviously, just getting the rehost done, getting everything sorted, fixing whatever the issue was. If you have missed the first 3 rounds so far, Wolves have won 2 of them on their attack here. The first, very convincing, able to take out pretty much everyone that was roaming and then just steadily massacre their way towards the site. It was the basement. The second, CC hold, that was a massive round from Kante Ricchetti, pushed his way into the bottom of the garage, and a flawless win from the side of Wolves, from the side of Wild. And then we go over to Gym Bedroom, where Wolves pretty much pulled a flawless. I think it was about a 4 versus 1 by the end of it, or a 3 versus 1. So it's been a bit back and forth.
Trying to find out what it says between the brackets on the poster afterwards.
I mean, how good are your eyes?
Not good.
I'm sure you can find a screenshot of it.
Not wearing my glasses right now.
Life stuff. The players are laughing, they're smiling. Loves anime. Look at all that. I can only name a couple of those.
Actually, I think it's Shinka, or is it P4? One of them has the like
The names on the bottom.
No, the posters from the events they've been to on the back. So like Berlin.
Oh, well, we've seen P4, and that is from One Piece. And I don't think we've had an event in the One Piece universe yet.
No. I mean, I don't know which one it was, but
well,
it's like
not
one of them had like all the posters in the background. Let's be chinking in.
2-1. We are back in. Thank you for bearing with us. As I said, the rounds have been taken full strength. Haven't really had a tooth and nail fight yet. Feel like this might be a potential start on that. I'm wondering if they're going to be as deep with the roam. It was a Solace that was punished almost instantly in the pockets of Teb, caught out on the side of Strip. As I said, it's a very risky position to rotate, and it's sort of one that you can only really make work once. Yes, you could take out all the drones and stop all the approach here, but without that soft being in that position, if you are in Strip, you're literally cut off by a single window. Whereas if you want to roam, you traditionally go above because it gives you rotation options. You have the hatches, you can try and play your way down. Across, obviously, construction, or across bedroom and gym area, but you just get yourself a little more wiggle room to not die.
It is still difficult, right? Because if the team is quick enough, they can also really quickly shut down top floor approaches, or roams rather, because especially like top floor, top down approaches is so prevalent on this map when you're attacking the basement. And as they're checking it right now, again, like top floor is clear, first floor is being cleared out as we speak as well. There's no roamers out here, so it's more going to be a 5-on-5 fight compared to the first round, which we've had. But the bait is going to start opening up. Tons of verticality out here in the kitchen as well. Deadshot just seeing a lot of work happen as well with the shotgun. And that's just all preparative work, right? It's just to stop that rotation from the defenders, just to make them feel a little bit less safe. A good impact coming through there. There's 4 taken out.
Yeah, that's
Thanks
4.
By 2.
There's 2,
6.
but yeah, at that point you've got to pull it back, and you still have to play against the impact. Deadshot, he's finally in a position to open that up here and try and stop anyone going for another impact. They're not going to do it, but they've already wasted a decent bit of utility because, well, with all what's left, you're looking at the limitation on towards the hatches itself. It's been popped on 2. With the Thatcher on the board, there's going to be no real problems getting your way in towards Moto, if that is the next point of call. But apart from that, you're pretty much out of pockets.
Now, I believe there was a serial laser gate onto the kitchen hatch as well. Just to keep that in mind. Actually, might not be. Oh, I saw like a nice little... Oh, yeah, no, there is. It's just been wasted already. But that's something to keep in mind as well, because that in like 25 seconds from now will reactivate as again another piece of utility we'll have to throw through if you want to make the swing or drop stick. And while they're pulling a really big turtle strat right now, they're just trying to waste as much time as possible, use as much utility as possible just to keep wolves at bay. And as the bees come through, that's a little bit of information, but is it enough to really work on?
Trying to force the players to get themselves out of a bit of position. As I said, the pockets were utilized to get Moto hatch open, but you're looking at Churchwolf fully locked and electrocuted, so they just got to drop and send it. P4 sent. Lolo gets caught. Deadshot gets Teb as well. Bibu's sitting in the middle of sight. They're looking up towards the hatch wild, but too little, too late. 2 post-plant, 2 flawlesses. You're out this game. This one is Wolves to take.
And again, like a completely different approach, what we see from WYLDE. They were all turtling down into the site because they lost the roam game so quickly in the last time they were here. But it didn't really matter, and now we're getting the tactical timeout from WYLDE. So just at the tech timeout, that's when he cannot speak, just to try and get the issue resolved. Now, tactically, they need to have a conversation because that was not how they wanted this to happen.
I mean, at this point, it's still a very weirdly paced game. And I know, obviously, we're looking at a bit of a round difference now. You've got 3-1. You've got themselves building a very good half, but it's still, I'm not going to say impossible to peg down where things are going right and where things are going wrong, because the pace is all over the place. There's great moments entirely then counteracted 20 seconds later by something unrelated. Suddenly looking up, looking down, looking up, and Bibu's gone from blue hatch to in the middle of the site, of around the sort of second and third box. This kill, yeah, great, he was blinded, but Bibu getting to where he is with a player on AKs and one on dirt, and them having no idea, you sort of wonder.
I like how Bibu had bees on the person's on AK, swaps over to the person in dirt, and is like, the last one is inside a, like, in church, and he just runs towards church. Once he's still getting accurate pings out on the player on AKs. A little bit of a distraction to the rest of the team. Still pause around now.
10 seconds.
Back into CCTV cache. Now, we often talk about basics, especially on this map. And at some point, this site pops up. And I'm like, everybody knows how to attack CC. This is the bare basics of Siege. Went wrong last time we were here, though, for the side of Wolves.
It did.
There's a flank coming in from Kanto, so that's something they need to be aware of.
Oh, I think this was the thing I sort of mentioned about the hold, was that usually when you sort of get this setup, you'll classically see all of Garage locked, and they kept one half open. Had Kanto just playing aggressive down on the sort of stage area, towards the side of stock, just swung his way in, hit the breach that they'd pre-opened, and I mean, here, it's something a little bit more formulated, a little bit more formulaic. Nello's got himself the extension. Kanto's playing his connection inside construction, so he will keep that territory in their control if Nello needs to, and likely will try and escape at some point.
Oh! An ADS at the wrong timing there, but still managing to find a kill into Lolo. That could have almost been used for WYLDE. As he came back up, that's the opening for Wolves, and that's something they're desperately looking for. Nello on the opposite side, he has a great opportunity to go for a flank at some point, especially if they come up the main stairs. And if they don't, he can still drop the gym hatch, but as the phones start ringing, they should be aware of his position. Kanto coming in to support as well. That's 2 players towards the bedroom area, whereas the rest of Wolves actually putting pressure down onto the garage.
From this point on, Wolves with that early pick against Lolo. Say early, a minute 30, but compared to how some of these rounds have cooked, at least the last time they were here, can they try and now force Teb off this or after this position? Support structure from underneath, you assume, is going to pay a little bit more attention towards it. They do have the player down on the bottom area, but otherwise they haven't really been able to take a huge amount else. CC wall itself still solid. The bottom of the breach is open. Deadshot does open up Kanto from the bottom of red, just holding onto that Adam swing. There's some pressure coming from underneath. The Deadshot shoots back, ball dead. Now is the drop and the flashes. Teb does stop Shinka, stops a flawless, but at this point, self-blinded and self-sending himself all the way to the top. The ponytail grabbed by and given the game away, and P4 swinging the last corner, pre-fires the angle of the player, but Nello, he's got to hold on against an onslaught here. Caught one, catches, no! Mowgli gets it, and Wolves' distance ever deeper.
Again, another very solid round coming in from Wolves there. The roam clear coming through and the verticality as well. The second kill on that was a bit more, well, not lucky, but like he should have probably not gotten away with that one because they were trying to open up vertically to try and challenge him. And he just leans right back in, takes a shot, that's a kill. And on they go towards the side of that point. So well done by Wolves. Expanding their lead quite steadily. And of course, you know, they are considered one of the top teams in Europe. They have always been at these major and international events. They're kind of expected to be like in the top 6 position at least to make it to playoffs.
It's some of the best we've seen Wolves generally playing here. Obviously, they had a very good game against Fnatic on Consulate. EDS, they were dispatched by. ITB was probably the biggest stress of the team. You've seen players that aren't always the pop-off for the team. I mean, Deadshot, you have to give a lot of credit for. Having Wolves be as sort of in contention for the fights and the points as they have been. WYLDE, since the rehost, 2 rounds, 2 kills.
Not great. There's a lot of improvement to be made. I know. How, right? It's like, what are they doing wrong? Because if you look at them, they just get caught up and they try and make rotations happen. And I mean, one of those 2 kills was Nello with a hip fire through the wall, finding a headshot somehow. Mowgli goes down. That's a huge one. The fire burst though as they push into sight.
I mean, what's this? A bit of a smash and grab here, Mowgli. He's taking a bit of a slow and it's left P4 alone with 5 HP in the dream of holding on. The pressure's coming around him. There's the break. P4, he's got a second engagement and he wins it. Lolo turns his back to the wounded player, buys Wolves more time, but P4's tapping his watch, screaming for some support. Feebu's there to deliver it from the side of Dirt. The big duel is now taking place over the back end of Blue and Oil. Shinka and Mowgli trying to find a way to slip into the site itself. The Bees get them a second of support. With everything locked, it's a bit awkward now for Kanto. Playing the long roll, the route that he's got to run his way in. Caught by the Bees. Nello gets the break on their own. Goyos, they're slowed by their own approach. Kanto, a huge take, but a post plant. Now with things being locked, if WYLDE can get a foot in, Wolves can't really stop the reproach. Dancing left and right, holding either side of the top of Blue. He knows he's got to trust that they can get the watch under this. 1 and 2, Shinka buries them from the back of Adam. Nello caught. I mean, I was confused about the pace before, but Wolves are howling.
That was such a risky play, Emmy. They open up the door, the Goyo pops, P4 runs in, gets the entry kill, runs in deep out of the fire. He's on like no more than 5 HP as you mentioned. But what I liked most is that he didn't instantly go for the plant. He was giving his team time to actually get towards the site, and because none of the hatches have been opened up, there was no real ways back in towards that site itself. And you know, playing it carefully, finding yourself in a spot where you could actually catch off that rotation as they did come down the main stairs. That was a huge play coming out as well. Again, all of that with 4 to 5 HP. And eventually getting that plan down. Even when I thought, okay, it's safe to go for the plan now, they were still waiting for the rest of the team to be in a great position, an even better position to support a potential post plan. They didn't rush it whatsoever.
Another tech. Another pause, another problem, but I mean, it almost balances out how quick Wolves have been to take these rounds. And WYLDE are just missing at the minute, both sort of in the shots and in the server itself. It's unfortunately missing some of those like huge surprise moments we used to get from this roster. These players, they've been unable to find a structure that can hold on to a map that is dominantly Wolves' at this moment in time. Here it was. They went for the drop on Blue, in through the fire.
Those Capkins as well. It's great they didn't use a Gon 6, but actually the S charge. I think that destroyed the Capkins because otherwise that would have just fallen apart right there. Like, there's 2 Capkins, there's a Goyo and a door, and a person watching it. Like, you couldn't have protected that more than you did.
Now, I'm part of a Siege EUL-based fantasy that is run by Jesse J. Chick. There's 5 of us in it. Me, Jesse, Ace, Fresh, and Tom J. Sherlock.
Are you winning?
Okay, no, Jesse's winning, so I think it's rigged. Okay. But that's a different story. What I will say is Tim has Deadshot in his team. And he's literally just written what I think is a poem that I want to read. Deadshot's headshots galore. Racking the point.
Is that the title?
Deadshot headshots galore. I mean, it's not a long it's not a long poem.
Or is it the start of the poem?
It's
like he's just writing it as we go. It's workshopping it.
Moral of the story, he's very happy with how things are going in this game. And to be fair, I think Deadshot as a player, when he joined the roster, there was a lot of questions because we'd seen the Wolves roster grow for such a long time. And let's be honest, he didn't quite have the impact we expected because the French region of Siege, very deep, very talented, some of the best players in the world. And, you know, you had at the time about 2 or 3 tier 2 French rosters. And you were like, oh, you know, who are they going to pull a player from? Are they going to do it from here? Yada, yada. And Deadshot came in a little bit off, you know, generally people's radars. Wasn't massive when he sort of got into the game as a gunner, but has really grown over the past about 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, the rumors were like either he goes to BDS or he goes to Wolves, right? Like both teams apparently were, according to rumors, trying to get him to sign a contract with them. But then he received like a lot of heat early on as he wasn't instantly up into the level that he is right now. But as you mentioned, he grew a lot, and you know, playing games like this, that always helps out. The argument for why it was the right choice to pick him up.
Exactly, and mainly because he was stepping into the role that was Rise's, where it was very much a lead vocal role. It was a lot of the strats playing, and they pick up Deadshot, who's just gunning. Mowgli sprays through, executes Kanto. More than ready.
No cover there, no support for Kanto. I mean, you know, he's trying to make something happen. I'm not sure if Deadshot spotted him, and Mowgli decided to throw in the impact tools. Deadshot was kind of baiting, you know? It's like, oh, I've showed myself. Now you're hyper-focused on this door. Impact comes in, instant swing for Mowgli. Something like that. Probably what happened. And the entry kill's now there for the side of Wolves, and they're on defense. You know what? They're also the basement. So it's going to be even harder now for the side of WYLDE to clear this, especially considering you've lost Jackal. So it's supposed to be the one that helps you clear that roam. You've lost a person due to a roam. That is definitely, you know, going to be like, we need to make sure that we're extra careful on our drones now, make sure there's no one left up. As they start opening up vertically, start opening up these hatches, doing preparative work to aim for an execute in, well, let's say 40 seconds from now.
I mean, ready for the anticipation here, but you have to realize, regardless of how this round goes, the fact that the deficit is so big, if WYLDE lose their opening attack, and they know they'll have to cycle back to this site, they know they'll have to cycle back to probably every site, it kind of gives me the hope Wolves might actually pick into a stage site just to see what it's like. And does find Deadshot though.
Great return to come through. 45 seconds left on the clock now, getting that drone in. At least a small opening onto triple wall makes it a bit more unplayable, but look at that Mowgli go, quite aggressive. Will not find a kill though, as Nello will lock it off, but it's B4 to follow up, Emmy.
There it is, pushing his way up to keep a barricade to get himself a safe route through. And he escapes, slipped and slinked his way underneath the cover of his own protection. Great use of the gadget. I mean, at this point, 15 seconds. They're going for the drop and the pressure. Caught out on Moto. The kit is cold and out of pocket. Bibu's going to hold on to the back of Blue as he swings round, misses the first engagement. It's either side of him. Gets the second down, and there's the cover down the corridor. P4 hasn't died since the rehost.
Love that little play there from Bibu, Emmy, because he checked 180, he realized, the wall is opened up. and there's someone on main stairs. That means I'm gonna get pushed from either side. So swaps over towards the bailiff, just takes the fight with the person running out of blue. And of course, you know, he gets down, but he still gets the kill off, meaning it's an effective one-on-one at that point. Like it was like not really a panic play, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna die anyway. Let's just take someone with me at this point. Now you're at the all famous 6-1. WYLDE will have to fend off 5 defenses and just get 5 successful attacks in a row. You just mentioned it. They will have to rotate back towards the side they just lost. And probably through a couple others as well. So there's no more room for error. And they're going to find themselves in a very precarious situation. All the way at the bottom of the scoreboard, 3 points removed from the nearest competitor.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
E4 has pulled off the James Bond. And let's be honest, I guess we can say that if every game has defied expectation in some way, E4 hasn't had a great season so far. He's, well, compared to the level that we know he can play at, right? There was a period of time where he was the biggest pop-off player on this roster, frequently finding huge numbers. And then he, you know, changed roles, got a bit quieter. This today has just been outstanding return to form for Wolves.
Stomach will be tricked. Oh, actually, no, the stun's coming through, so there it goes. Opening will be there. I'm not quite sure where it came from. Must have been from, like, oh, the drone hole to come through from Kanto. Always good to see the concussions to be used in such a manner to cancel the bandit trigger, as P4 will go down first.
Maybe I shouldn't have talked about him. He finds his first death. Okay, 7-1. That's still fine. He's still half his KD deficit if this ends up in their favor. Pretty good there at the office. Mowgli takes the next bit of damage. Trying to... Okay. Sure. Why not?
Casual.
Just casual. Why not? I was going to say try and retake main stairs. No, he wanted to shoot Nello's face off with a P90 at range. Kanto does find the end of Mowgli. But I mean, hitting the rappel player, just cruel. Now there is obviously the player lying behind the soft. Bibu's at a point, if he goes undroned, he can define this.
Oh, no! Oh, the Claymore! It keeps him in place. He cannot really push through. There's a second player, people. Don't pay too much attention to it as it gets taken down.
So, called out. Kanto gone. A minute here. The Packful to try and drive the team in for the plant. They're behind the cover of the gym equipment. Deadshot's got the cross, but there's a player on his left and one watching on the right as well. There's the angle from Shinka. Stops the kit being secured. How he was able to piece that together from the rotate, threaded the needle, but now it's down to the 2 Italians to pull any hope of WYLDE getting this back in. Deadshot is the answer of that hope. Unfortunately, it's loud and in French, and it says, not today! Wolves! A phenomenal showing from a roster that's finally starting to bear the fangs we know it has.
People were having fun with the camera out there. I was gonna say, it's like, you just saw Deadshot as soon as they won it. It's like, almost no emotion there. Like it was another day at the office. Like they've just finished their scrim. But no, they've just got a 7-1 victory over WYLDE. And they put themselves back into that top 6 on a shared third place.
From the list of surprising results, Wolves, I think, have thrown us up to the mix. But for one last time tonight, let's throw it to the desk for them to talk about it.
Thanks so much, Hub and Floyd, for all your casting today. Always really nice to listen to, of course. And yes, our final game of the day has concluded. Wolves have made quick work of WYLDE, as we can say. 3 points in the bag, looking solid.
They did really quick work with them. And why did they do it? Because they're finally back to playing the way that they did last stage. We were praising them so much, Jack, you and me on this desk.
We were.
In a different city, however. But they finally looked like that team again. And I'm so happy for them. Because, yeah, I predicted that the map was going to fit into WYLDE, that they need to play the basics more. And it's a good map for them because they should be theoretically heavy. Wolves really showed that they have it again to a certain extent.
I think the one big thing that I was looking for certainly was that the performance was more important than the result. I think for probably whoever won, but also whoever lost, and we can come on to WYLDE. For Wolves, the fact that was so dominant, and especially with them being on, the attack so early on, winning 5 attacks is not something we've been able to say for Wolves for a while, especially inside of a EU League. So I think, yes, we've got to consider the quality of their opponent, but this was night and day different Wolves to what we have seen. Previous Wolves that we've seen have been when they've been executing with low drones. We in the Solace clip, how bad their drone work was. Their aggression where they've got 2 people who are aggressive and 3 people who are passive that creates gaps. Look at this aggression of 2-3 players. There was one round where P4 sent it in and was into sight through a Goyo canister, getting the kills. That's the Wolves that we know and love. That's the Wolves that we want to see, and that's the Wolves that we get really excited about, right?
Yeah, and it's the Wolves that you remember when we started seeing Wolves really starting to play this aggressive style. It was specifically on Chalet, so it's a completely different map. But they just exploded from everywhere at the same time, and they try these unorthodox things. Because I think, take that Ash round, as you said, where he just jumped through the barricade. That is not something we would have seen 2 weeks ago from Wolves.
Agreed.
Because they would have been like, oh, it's too strange, it's too weird. But that's how they have seen their success as a team. And they're finally seeming to take a step back to that.
It's crazy, actually, when you see these guys as one unit and how good they can be. And then when you see them so fragmented, they can be so bad. It's like you just see totally different sides to them. And I know that's kind of true for every team, but the extent of like the how good they can be when they're together and how bad they can be when they're not playing together is massive. They can't just just work their way through a round through a game without getting out of second gear. They've really got to be up there, everybody together.
And I'm really happy to hear this because prior to this game, we even mentioned it, we've been really harsh on this team. I mean, even with the performance we've seen from them, you weren't convinced. It wasn't really showing yet, but they seem way more in sync.
We've had 2 interviews where they've won games and we've been like, what the hell is going on? Because this is not good enough. So I think it's nice to come out and say, yes, they put in a very dominating performance.
Very, very dominating. I want to touch shortly on WYLDE, though, because I think that they had a rough time. It's probably kindly worded. This is the playstyle they kind of need to predict. Even if Wolves have had a rough time, they kind of need to predict sort of playstyle against them, right? And it seemed that they did not have a clue about what was going to go on or how to play the game. And it just looked really, really rough for them. I will keep questioning them now because I've not been convinced that there's anything really redeeming right now. They need to really step up on both individual, but also the theory. It needs a rework. You guys need to get up with the meta.
I think there's one player you really want to talk about, and that might be because he's in your fantasy team.
No, it's nothing to do with the fact that he's in my fantasy team. Jesse, that's all I'm going to say. The actual reason that I wanted to highlight P4, and I've highlighted it in gold there on the actual overview, is P4 on the entry kills. 2 entry kills. Big KD. Big cost. It's not something we're used to seeing out of P4. I think he's one of the players that I challenged that was maybe a little bit passive in nature and has been a little bit passive in nature, but we've seen that he's got the talent. So I'm hoping that this game in particular for P4 can be a big flip for him, that he can join Deadshot and Mowgli in being in that aggressive front line, getting aggressive with them, because he's got the talent when he is. And I think he showed just a little glimpse of that today.
For our final interview of the day, we have Helby joining us from Wolves support staff as well. We get to ask him a few questions about this game, so we should be able to say hello to Helby. Good evening. Good to speak to you. 3 points. They must be very welcome.
Very welcome, yes. 3 points and also a plus, minus and plus. That's very good in putting us on 3rd spot, I think, right now.
Yep.
I have questions for you, Helby. First of all, what is it that you guys gave the team for breakfast today? Because today you guys played the old the old Wolves that I'm used to seeing, the one that I praised you guys over and over on broadcast for. We saw aggression, we saw confidence, and we saw very good team play. What did you give them for breakfast?
Well, I think we made a very intentional improvement on attack, and I think our mistake was not that we were not aggressive, it's that the aggression was not working. So we worked on the timing, the tempo, and just doing things together, and I think against WYLDE today it worked well, but it also gave us a lot of space to do it.
Okay, so hearing this is that you've really worked on some specific things. What can we expect for the future? Is there still something you want to work on?
Well, we have a long week of Scrim since we don't play tomorrow, so we can expect more of that. There's some big games coming up, so I think we play G2, Secret, and ENCE, not in that order, but So top of the leaderboard, it's and Anstat seems to be in good shape right now, beating BDS. So you know, we're just gonna keep trying to improve on that, and our eyes are set on the playoffs. So you know, we want to use this stage as a time to get adjusted, because our attacks were not working out early in this phase. So you know, get ready for playoffs, and anything can happen in playoffs. So you know, as long as we get there.
So, you know, with my team, with old G2, we always used to hide strats. So what you're saying is a little bit, you guys have been hiding strats? Is that so?
No, no, I think it's just sometimes to adjust. If we want to be fair, between the 6th Invitational, the end of it, and the start of the new, this season, there was barely like 15 days or so. Yep. So I think the adjustment has been a bit rough and a bit rush, and we're starting to see the fruits of what we've been working on in the last couple of weeks.
It just sounds better when you say that you hit it, so that's what I take out of this.
I mean, I can say I hit it, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
We hit it all.
I got what I wanted. Perfect, thank you.
Awesome. It seems like you have very clear goals in mind, of course, not being able to underestimate anyone that's still ahead of you. We wish you best of luck with the preparation, of course. Enjoy the day off tomorrow, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Also, always good to hear from the support staff as well, what specifically has been going on behind the scenes from these teams, really. But as we have had our final game of the day, we also have our standings to see how our teams are doing so far. So, Fresh, if you could please take us through them.
Yep, well, obviously BDS will stay at the top of the pile. 4 wins out of 5, still an exceptional result, despite the fact that they lost today, similar to Secret. However, it's bunched up nicely in that midfield. In that fight between kind of, well, 2nd place and all the way down to 7th, you're looking at a 3-point differential. And then it comes down to VP. Who would have thought it? 3rd place at SI. They're struggling behind. They're on 4 points down in 8th place, looking like they might have to drop out and play through open qualifier playoffs. However, they have already had an off day, so they've got an advantage on a lot of other teams that they will play all the way through. WYLDE at the bottom, wilding, I think is the term that we coined. They're looking
terrible.
Yeah, I don't have an adjective. Yeah, sure.
No, they are lacking on everything.
Honking.
So they need, yeah, they're honking. They need to pick up on basically everything. I think that they need to reinvent their meta and start actually having some individual performance.
I want to see Packball. I want to see Packball have creative freedom.
Go back to what you guys did before, because it worked really well.
It worked so well last year.
And I think that if you guys do that, you stand a much better chance.
At least in best of ones, it works well.
Yeah, because you can be so creative with it. But it's just so wonderful. Again, I would keep repeating it every time we look at this scoreboard or the ladder. It's open to anybody.